It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full forward. Mackey's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big goal!
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to MECWACARE, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc.
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello everyone and welcome to For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the Ammos. We have got round 5 in the book, looking ahead now to round 6. The season is starting to get rolling and rocking. Joe Pignataro is my name here. All thanks to MECWACARE, proud partner of our competition. Jason Bennett and Paddy Grindlay here as well. Hello lads.
Joseph, how's your week been?
Pretty good. I got a lot of feedback on Saturday afternoon into the evening.
Yeah, how did it go?
Again,
it was St Bernard's versus, we'll get to that game. Or should we want to talk about it straight away?
Considering, and hello Joey and Jason, good to see you again.
Hello Patrick.
Considering, Joey, that you've been more than happy to bring up the Snow Dogs when they've been winning games, and they have been winning a few games to start the season.
Yes.
So I think it would be confusing for the listener to not go, as we have in previous weeks, to St Bernard's first and discuss how that game played out.
Absolutely.
You've got a message you want to read out, I'm sure.
Well, so on Saturday afternoon, I was out doing some VFL commitments, and I put up the photo of the ground. It was a beautiful day Saturday, so I had a perfect afternoon for football with a photo, and the feedback was from an assistant coach at the Old Zavarians. 7:08 p.m. Was a perfect afternoon for football, wasn't it? And then it just hashtag aura.
Yep.
Aura. All they want to know is, why do I not believe in the Old Zavarians?
Yeah, why don't
Old
you?
Zavorians, you mean?
Zavorians.
Why don't you? It's a good question.
Well, because they've just bullied teams for so long.
And
it's
they are
time
again.
someone starts to serve back their medicine, and they haven't had premiership success for nearly 10 years, and somehow that keeps getting forgotten around here. And I'm happy to remind people.
Well, let's talk about Saturday. St Bernard's overpowered at home. It was a good performance from the Snow Dogs, in fairness. Old Zabs in the end managed to get the points, but Bernard's kicked the first couple of goals. Old Zabs then kicked 6 of the next 7 and took control of the game. And it sort of looked like it was going to be one-way traffic and they were going to run away with it. But credit to the Snow Dogs. They kicked the next 3 to tie things up early in the third term. Zabs kicked another couple, got away, and then a couple to start the last term as well, which stretched it out to 26 points. But again, credit to the Snow Dogs. They kicked 2 goals in 3 minutes to just keep the game interesting. But then it was Zabs in the end who finished the stronger. They kicked the last 3 goals of the game, got it out to 35 points in the end. The contest, it must be said, in general play was a lot closer than that, a lot closer than 35 points. But that ended up being the margin. Sam Fisher, 37 disposals, 20 contested, 11 clearances. He was outstanding. Campbell Lane, our man from the podcast last week, had 34 and 10 rebound 50, so obviously positioned himself behind the football a little more. Zabs improved to 4-1 on the season. Dan Donati said there was no easy possessions. There was lots of contest-to-contest stuff. Both sides pretty evenly matched for most of the day. Some great one-on-one battles at both ends. In the end, we had a few more good looks and were able to put the score on the board at crucial moments. And Steve Alessio pretty much echoed the same sentiment and said they had their chances early in the last to get close, but just lacked a bit of poise in front of goal. Ultimately weren't able to match Zab's cleaner ball use.
So my feeling is, on the Old Zavarians, if we can be serious for a moment, is I did say in the preseason I thought their aura was back, and I feel like the brand of football they're playing to start this year, Paddy, is significantly more sustainable. I think the three of us had a brief discussion at some point Saturday, maybe just before the game, that Phipps Parsons was laid out.
Yeah,
and he was doing in the VFL.
Called him Saturday night for
and,
Carlton, made his debut, which was exciting for him. Well done.
Well done to Sterling, absolutely.
Did
but
some
in
nice
terms
things
of
in that game too, just little glimpses.
Oh,
that's
weird.
Yeah.
Played as a small forward. As
Yeah,
we
he
see
did.
in the
Played
others.
as a
that's
small
terrific.
forward.
Awesome.
Good.
Fantastic. So what the reason I bring it up is the fact that they're able to let a player like that get the opportunity to play up or not be in there 22, and he completely, the forward line doesn't fall into a hole. They're able to replace that. It's almost that
'cause he kicked 6
next
last week for them.
man in mentality. They obviously had that thumping win against Scotch the week before. They're 4-1 on the season. I think their brand is sustainable as well as, emphatic to the rest of the competition.
They had 8 goal kickers on the weekend.
Oh, that's even
Charlie
better.
McIsaac kicked 3. Dan Tuddenham kicked 3. Sochio kicked a couple. So
they're not relying on one
They
person.
just found other ways to goal.
And they are the highest scoring team in top flight footy this year. So they're beating the Tunners. They kick about roughly, the margin is 31 points to Old Brighton. So they're second on the ladder. That percentage sitting around a 188.6. So It's the perfect start for the Zavs. I think what's particularly good as well for them is that I think they got done by a decent margin last year when they played St Bernard's out at the Snake Pit.
They did. They did.
Exactly. I'll give you that. So it's just ticking some boxes. I think last week's victory over Old Scotch gives them the confidence to go forward, being able to take a win at a ground which held a bit of an issue for them coming into the contest. So I think that's what you want from the start of the season. You bank the wins, but you also learn a lot about your squad and you learn where you've improved.
Jace, I reckon their next 3 games has a chance for them to set up a spot in the top 2 where if they are to drop one in the back half of the season, it's not going to be too impactful. Starting with the Uni Blues this week, they're then taking on Collegians at home before D-Lars selling round 9. That'll get the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, it could really set them up, couldn't they? Get ahead of the curve. Speaking of Old Brighton, they reversed last season's Premier Men's Grand Final result, remains undefeated in 2025. It was an emphatic win over an undermanned Old Scotch at Brighton Beach. Incredible scoreline.
Disgusting.
The Tunners dominated general play in the opening term, but actually trailed by 4 points at the first break.
Can you read the score? Or do you want me to?
0-9 to 2-1.
But it gets better.
How many times in footy could you have 3 times the scoring shots and trail at quarter time? By half time, they actually led by 20 points, but they had 20 more inside 50s.
Can you read the score?
15 more scoring shots by half time.
316 to 2 goals 2. That's 316-34 to 2-2-14.
The irony was that the Cardinals actually evened up the territory battle in the third term, but got outscored in the process. This is when Brighton started to hit the scoreboard a little better, and they got out to a 34-point lead at the last change, ultimately cruised to a 45-point victory, and as we said, could have been significantly larger if not for their remarkable 8 goals 28 final scoreline. And look, a clearer indication than the final margin was 36 scores to 11. That sums up the dominance that they had. They scored their 13th consecutive win at Fortress Brighton, and they stay a game clear at the top of the table. Your man, Harry Hill, everywhere. 37 disposals, 26 contested, 13 clearances and a goal.
1 goal 6.
Ably supported by Kai Dimartino, who had 33. Sam Grant was fantastic in the ruck for the Cards. He was best of field for them. So Old Scotch, as we know, have got their personnel issues. They've dropped their last 3 now, and they sit 8th on the table at the moment. Marcel Bruin was delighted with the performance, other than obviously the finishing side of it. He said, Scotch put us under a lot of pressure despite being down on personnel, forced us to adjust our entries, which added to some challenging shots on goal, but we're able to just keep creating opportunities off the back of good defensive structure and our own pressure. Mark Nat said, look, Old Brighton are definitely the benchmark of the competition. It was great for a number of our boys to experience what it feels like against the best in the top flight, and there were moments where they were able to execute our game style and find that connection. But as I mentioned, they've dropped 3 in a row and they sit 8th.
Now, there's a great social media account on X called AFL Scorigami, and what it does is it tracks whether a scoreline in the AFL has ever happened before. We need our man, the Peacock, to look through the archives and find some VAFA Scorigami, because if 8 goals, 28 behinds has ever been kicked before, I want to know about it. That is remarkable stuff.
They got close last year. They kicked 8-22, didn't they, against St Bernard's?
It happens occasionally at Brighton
Really
Beach
up their
Oval.
game this year.
Joey, you've seen Scotch do this for a few years now. Do you think that they have the ability to take stock, weather the blows a little bit in this early part of the year where they are short a few players, and then come home strong at the back end of the season?
I'm a bit worried about them. I look at the team list and there are still, 50% of the side played in last year's grand final, but there isn't a big man there to own the forward line. I know Will Clark's there and he started the season really well, but there's no James Tarrant, there's no Ty Sellers. I've got some concerns around whether they can kick a big enough score to win games, Chase.
Well, right now they're hanging in. We know that. The question is, as Paddy mentioned, can they get enough wins to find their way up into the top 4 at the right end of the year? Because if they do, they bring all those guys back, but the next 3 weeks, I think, might define their season. Uni Blacks, who are struggling, they've got Uni Blacks at home at Camberwell. Must win. St Bernard's at St Bernard's is going to be difficult.
It's a tough game for them.
But got to find a way somehow.
Yep.
And then they've got Uni Blues again at Camberwell.
Okay.
So if they can at least win 2 of their next 3, because then they've got St Kevin's.
So that's 7th and 9th in terms of Blues and Blacks.
St Kevin's, D-Lar, Old Haileybury, Collegians after that gets them to round 12. So there's some games there that are going to be sort of 50-50s going in.
Yep.
If they can just find a way to win their share
at
and
2 and
stay
3
close.
with a percentage of 75.
Because they're only 1 game out at the moment. That's the reality, plus percentage. So 2 games effectively.
But like I look at last year, Collegians made the top 4 with 11 wins. So that's where you need to try and get to. So can they find Like are they going to have
So
to give themselves
you've
6
gotta find
wins,
them
5
9
wins in the back
wins
run?
in
That's a
15
tough
games.
Yeah.
Less than that. 12 games.
Yep.
Yep. So it's a challenge for them, there's no doubt. Now, the team that is sitting in fourth at the moment is Old
yes,
Haileybury.
let's talk about this.
Back-to-back wins for the first time this season. They sit inside the top 4. They kicked away in the third quarter of the 2024 Premier B Grand Final rematch against D La Salle at Princes Park. And D La, Paddy, you were at this game. They were right in it in a hot first half. They led by a goal at quarter time. They trailed by just 3 at the major break. And listening to your SEN coverage, the question was, can they go on with it for 4 quarters?
Yep.
We know D La, their lapses of 15, 20 minutes are what cost them. And sure enough, right on cue, Andreas Stefanakis came out, grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, kicked 4 goals in 10 minutes in the third quarter, and that was pretty much all she wrote.
Yeah, it was a 6-goal run that the Bloods enjoyed that was on the back end of the first quarter and then through, as you mentioned, the back end of the second quarter and through the early part of the third quarter. Stefanakis had his beak into the carcass and just went hard. D-La, this is the thing for them. So I've seen them now twice in the flesh. Against St Kevin's, the issue for them was turning the ball over in dangerous spots and then not being able to defend the big guys up front. And they seem to have adjusted, so they were better with the ball in hand. They did have a few players back. Jake Williams was one of those. He kicked 3 goals and was super impressive. They also got Rob Amendola back this week after he played a scratch match against Tassie for Sandringham down in Tassie 2 weeks ago. But they just turned the ball over on a couple of occasions early in that third quarter, gave Stefanakis the chance to get hot, and that was really where the game was won. It was really competitive for the whole game. There was a real focus for Nick Hyland and his team about trying their best to break even in the midfield. Old Haileybury's guts are stacked. We know they've got Ollie Houghton for a few more games than I think most pundits expected, considering his status as a North Melbourne VFL-listed player. Brady Seckle goes hard in the guts all day. Josh Gasparini's another one. They're actually that stacked in the midfield that Hugo Noziara, who is a VFL-level talent previously, played for Carlton, they've had to push him to half-back. He's taking kickouts because it's the only way that he can actually get his hands on the pill, such as the representation on the inside, and they're all at the feet of Jack Bell, who Hugo Higginbotham, he'll get back to me on that one. He's got Jack in his sights as the Big V ruckman this year.
Yeah, right.
He's been superb. He's probably with... Obviously, the St Kevin's ruckman Billy Coates not being fit at the moment. Yep. He does feel like the number 1 ruck. So Old Haileybury were able to probably kill the game quite quickly into that third quarter, and then they just sort of held stock. They didn't really give D-La the opportunity to get the margin back within 4 goals. A nice moment to finish where Josh Docking put through a goal after the siren, which was his first as an Old Haileybury player. He's a Sandringham-listed guy as well, played his footy for Hampton Rovers previously. But I tell you what was really funny. And Sarah Burt pointed this out for us on the boundary on the SEN call, was that you were watching Nick Hyland and hearing Nick Hyland speak to his players. He was positive, he was encouraging them, he was pushing them up to, we've got to maintain a defensive unit, but a really positive coach who understands, I think, the role that he's got over a pretty young group, keeping things positive and watching them improve week on week. Daniel Ward, they're up by 5 goals. He's tearing, he doesn't have much hair to tear out, but if he did have hair to tear out, it would be on the floor. He was furious, marching up and down the boundary line, hands on the back of his head, hunched over. So he's really striving for that top level of football because he understands that they can mix it with the Brightons and the Zaverians of the competition. If you look at all the key stats, the Old Haileyburyans are right amongst it. So that's where he's wanting to achieve. So I think a 27-point win, they'll be happy with that, the Bloods, but they probably saw an opportunity to run up the score a little bit on Saturday afternoon.
The shining light for D La Salle, Antonio Giampa, 17 years old. He's still at school at Mazenod, announced himself with a superb 32 possession performance as a wing half-back, just his second senior game. Hard running, 5 rebound 50, 6 inside 50, stellar breakout game. And I can tell you one thing for certain, that's put him on the radar of the Big V under-19 selectors.
Wow.
32 touches in your second game as a 17-year-old schoolboy at Premier Men's level.
So the story, because he's a Mazenod boy,
Yeah.
Antonio, but he was coached by Rob Amendola in junior footy, and Rob's arrived at D-La and brought Antonio with him. He's got
nice
a 2008 birthday. He's in year 12. He's only just turned 17.
That's
Impressive.
it absolutely is impressive. Bit of a blight on the school of De La Salle. They've got to go out to Mazenod to find their kids.
Knew you'd find an angle.
Why isn't he at De La Salle?
See, I like this because, and we mentioned it off air, but the amount of D-La people I had make their way up to me, realising that I'd know you, Joey Pignataro, and said, can you get that Pignataro to give us a break on the podcast?
Well, I tell you what, if they
he has a crack every week.
Yes, if they win a game, maybe I'll go a little bit easy on them. Yeah. But they should also know the history of this podcast is Brian Waldron used to sit in your chair, the former president of that club.
They're aware.
You've got to let it go.
No
Joseph.
way.
You've just
Absolutely
got to let
no
it go.
way. Not a chance in hell. How many more games we got left in Premier?
couple we go. Collegian scored a pivotal win over Uni Blacks, and we had this game, we talked about it last week, as being such a critical game for both these teams. And the Blacks started well. They led by 9 points at the first break. They were left to early wasted opportunities, though, because the Lions did get their possession game going in the second term. They kicked 5 goals in 12 minutes, got out to 17 points up at halftime. Blacks stabilised things a bit in the third, broke even for the quarter, but just couldn't find the goals in the last quarter. They kicked 4 behinds. The Lions added 2-2. So a 27-point win for Collegians, who stay in touch with the top 4, but the Blacks now find themselves a further game back in the bottom 2. Alex Lukic, another 3 goals, so he's got 15 to lead the comp for the season. The Walker boys, Campbell and Josh, had 69 disposals, 17 tackles and 15 clearances between them. James Clark and Zach Jackas were best for the Blacks, who now face, as I mentioned, might be a season-defining fortnight for them. They've got Old Scotch and De La Salle, the Uni Blacks, 2 must-win games for them.
Yeah, particularly on the back of having lost to sides like Brighton, St Bernard's, Old Haileybury, who are 3 of the top 5 at the moment. The draw doesn't really open up for Blacks, unfortunately, and it's again another season where, Paddy, they're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in the back half of the year. That would be the 3rd season in a row. They're probably going to turn at the bye or the mid-season period in the negative when it comes to wins and losses, and they're going to have to do everything they can if they want to stay up next year on the back of where they're at so far.
Final game of round 5, TH King St Kevin's against Uni Blues. And despite what we thought coming in, it was going to be a low-scoring slog. Early on, 10 goals kicked between them. Scob by 2 goals at the opening change, and then they grabbed the initiative. They kicked 4 of the first 5 in the second term, got out to a 30-point lead. The Blues dug in, kicked 3 goals in 7 minutes during time on, got their way back into the game, and then it became a change of pace. Just 3 goals kicked for the quarter in the third term, probably more of what we expected. Scob kicked 2 of them, though, so that put them out to a 21-point lead, and when Sam Barnett kicked the first 2 of the final term, they were out to 32 points. James Stewart kicked a couple, but Scob ultimately the answers. They kicked the last 3 to extend the margin to a game-high 42 points. Paddy Kerr kicked 5, Sam Barnett kicked 4, and suddenly that duo looms as a major factor in the race for the flag, because Kerr's a threat, as we know, in his own right. If he can now put Barnett alongside him, a genuine goal kicker, it makes them so much more dangerous, particularly if you've got Luke Winter and Angus Hanrahan having 30 touches each. They've suddenly got some weapons up forward.
I think Angus Hanrahan was on debut as well, so that's a handy way to start your senior career. 14 goals apiece for Kerr and Barnett this year. Barnett, of course, at the Ogs last year was their runner-up in the best and fairest. Joey, you mentioned this in the pre-season. You wanted Plugger Lynch's side to kick more goals. They've got now 2 tons in their past 3 games. This started off being a bit of a shootout. They kicked 7 goals to 3 after half-time. I'm liking what they're developing at the TH King.
They should do it every week, not just every couple of weeks. Last year, they only kicked 100 points 4 times. The year before, 4 times. The year before, 5. They are capable of kicking 100 points week in, week out. And if they do that, they will finish inside the top 2. There is no doubt about that.
We've got to take a break because we've got an urgent phone call to make. We're hearing next from the skipper of the old Camberwell Footy Club, Jimmy Allen. You're with For the Love of the Game, all thanks to MECWACARE.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food, because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
Let's turn our attention now to Premier B. Of course, our man Paddy Grindlay loves this section, and I'm looking forward to asking you a lot of questions about this section.
Well, this was the incredible weekend. First versus second, first versus fourth, fifth versus sixth, seventh versus eighth, and ninth versus 10th. We said coming into this weekend, Paddy, it was going to be a seismic weekend for the ladder, because there was a bunch of effectively 8-point games, and what a weekend it turned out to be. It did not disappoint.
Yeah, we had a 1v2 contest, and we have a new ladder leader. The old Camberwell side has jumped to the top of Premier B, and joining us right now on For the Love of the Game is the skipper, Jimmy Allen. Hello, Jimmy.
G'day, guys. How you going?
Good, mate. Good. Not as well as your team is going, though. A fantastic game of footy on the weekend. We had 4 thrillers across Premier B, all decided by 11 points or fewer. Take us through the contest, mate. We've seen Old Ivanhoe have started the year so well, but you were able to down them. How did it play out?
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of good battles with Old Ivanhoe over the year. Really happy to be up there with them. side. But yeah, on the weekend, just I don't know, it's always a hard fought game between us. It sort of seems to who's on the park. It's just hard fought footy, and yeah, we're lucky enough to get over the line in the last quarter. But yeah, no, it was a good performance from the boys. We sort of had all over the ground. No real stars. There are probably a few guys who thought they starred, but it was sort of an even. And yeah, no, really, really happy with the boys.
That might be news to a couple of your teammates. No real stars. They're sitting there back listening to the podcast going, well, I reckon I went all right.
Just a quick one as well for you, Jimmy. So I was really interested when I rang your coach, Neil Connell, during the week, and he mentioned that he gave you guys a lot of homework for the old Ivanhoe engine room, the likes of Billy Murphy, who have started the year so strongly. I'm interested to know what that homework was. I know Neil's got a school background. What did he have you doing across the week?
Coach is a real student of the game, loves his footy. We got the group message that we've got that he's constantly putting videos and sort of AFL stuff into to try and get the boys thinking. And yeah, the Ivanhoe midfield is an absolutely quality group. So it was just a lot about, how to control what we can control. We got two men who competed really well against Ivanhoe's big fellow. Dominant. So it was just sort of about trying to dictate and not get too caught up with some really and just try and win the footy at the coalface on the inside, not let it get too far on the outside, which I think we did reasonably well.
9-8-1 last year to finish sixth. Where's the improvement come from, Jimmy?
Oh, look, it's hard to say. I mean, we were pretty happy with our first half of the year, and then I think we came into the middle of the year pretty well, and then lost a few to injuries and things like that, and probably just didn't have the experience in B grade, having come up from C the year before and D the year before that. So I think this year we've just had a chance to sort of bond a bit. Got some new players that have slotted in really well, and yeah, enjoying their footy, which I think just translates onto the field.
Jimmy, I'm really interested in this. So Anson Brownless last year was your coach, and you've obviously got the new one in Neil, who's been around the club. What's the difference between the two coaches? Because I have noticed there has been a change in game style. What's that been about?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just got to Anson. He just called me half an hour ago. But,
how is he?
Yeah, he's going well. He was down at the game on the weekend, so it's good to see him still. But yeah, no, very, very different sort of style. Brown was very, very relaxed, a great bloke to have around the club, and we were probably in some of our worst years. He was really important in keeping the ball or the whole club together. Whereas come in, had him as the assistant last year. Obviously got a lot of experience at North as a development coach for a while, and has done a lot of coaching. Just absolutely loves studying the game. So probably depth with our analysis now. He's got a lot of good thoughts and experience that he brings to the table, which I think B grade is probably what we need. So it's been a good change to really switch. But having said that, we had a lot of success under Browner as well, but just sort of different.
Jimmy, can we talk about your own form? You had a very good year in 2024. You were part of the team of the year in Premier B. You finished third in the Best in Comp medal. How was your pre-season, and how have you started this year compared to what you did last year?
Yeah, pretty disappointing to be honest. It's it's the guys we've got in, all the sort of players in, particularly through the midfield, who are just absolute stars. It's been good to sort of share the load a little bit, and I've probably taken the back seat, sort of trying to coach within on the ground. So I haven't sort of been collecting as many touches, which because a lot of the other boys are doing some of the heavy lifting. But no, I mean as a team's playing really well, and that's all I really care about. So
well, the coach is still rating you. You've played 4 games this year, and you're in the best for 2 of them. Not sure if you're aware, but this weekend will be your 150th for old Camberwell. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, with COVID in there in the middle, it's sort of taken a little bit longer and a couple of injuries. But yeah, no, very excited to be playing 150.
What does the club mean to you?
I love the club, yeah, and I've been down since I obviously went to the school, and so I think this is my 10th or 11th year. Yeah, got a lot of good mates. I think it's just a really great place to be week in, week out. That's what's kept me around, and it's always the sort of highlight of the week, getting to training, playing the games and pulling the jumper on. So, yeah, the club.
Who's the best team you've faced so far this year? You've beaten Ivanhoe by 11 points. You've faced Fitzroy. You've faced Old Carey. You beat them. You fell to them by 4 goals. And you beat Old Trinity by a point in the first round. So you've had a bit of a look at the teams around you. Who so far do you think stacks up?
Well, that's a tough question. I didn't actually play round 3 against Kids, the game we dropped, and from all reports and in the review, they were a really, really impressive outfit on the day. I mean, having played a little bit of C grade and D grade footy, honestly, B grade sides are all just quality, and that's probably why you saw on the weekend so many games decided by margins. Is that everyone on their day is a worthy opponent, and you can't really take anyone. That's probably not the answer you wanted, but
beautifully answered, Jimmy.
Well handled.
I threw the grenade in, and you just casually picked it up, popped the pin back in, and handed it back to me.
Big few weeks coming up for your footy club. You've got Old Melburnians this weekend at Elstonwick Park before Caulfield, Old Geelong and Williamstown CYMS to round out your next little run. Thanks so much for joining us and best of luck for the rest of the season.
No worries, guys. Thank you.
That was Jimmy Allen from Old Camberwell, not to be confused with Jimmy Allen, the coach of Werribee, who won the premiership last year in the VFL. Paddy, Jace mentions part of that interview. It was a cracking weekend in Premier B. Extraordinary. But just don't tell me, we'll start with the blowout, that Hampton kicked the first goal and Fitzroy kicked the next 17. Please don't tell me that happened.
Let me have a look at the play HQ. They did kick their only goal of the game in that first term. Fitzroy just kicked a couple. No, it was Fitzroy who kicked the first of the game. Hampton kicked the second, and then Fitzroy kicked the next 16. A big day for Louis Hodder, who was an 18-year-old, did a pre-season at Box Hill. Travis Ronaldson's really stoked with him. He won the Div 1 Under-19s goal kicking last year with 69 ones through the big sticks. So he's an exciting talent. Fit in nicely next to Dane Harvey inside 50. But yes, everything else was close. The one that wasn't close was a 100-point win for the Roys. So they've got their season underway, 103-point win rather. 2 winless sides coming into this game of footy. Marty Pask mentioned to me that they're experiencing unprecedented levels of injury. They could just about field another team with their injury list. They're having to take a lot of under-19s players and play them in Premier B. At the moment, they're just so proud with them fronting up every weekend in what's been a really tough start to life in the second highest Premier Division.
Of the results left, the other 4, and I know we just spoke about Old Camberwell, which one takes your attention the most?
I think we'll probably start, with Williamstown CYMS because with Conter's ugly because they hadn't beat Old Geelong in a significant amount of time. I believe it's since 2018, round 5 was the last time they won a game against the Ogs. It's Willie's best start to a season since 2019. So the 3-2 start means a lot to them. They feel like they're in a bit of uncharted territory now because usually they've been battling to stay out of Premier C in their last couple of years of Premier B footy. So now they get the opportunity to sort of mix it with the big boys.
It's almost a great full season of footy they've put together, isn't it? Because you think halfway through last year when we talked to Con, they were fighting for survival.
They were.
Yep.
And the back end of their season was great, and now the front end of this season has been really good. So they've almost put together a whole year of pretty good footy.
And it's good that you say that, Jace, because I think the learning how to win element for Williamstown has been really crucial. So the back end of last year, they've learnt basically how to win games of footy. The start, the game against Fitzroy where they run away late, so they know they have the fitness. Even the comeback where they lost against Old Ivanhoe, but they cut the margin from 10 goals to 2 by the end of the game, so they know that they can make a comeback. They know not to panic, and all that sort of came together in this game against the Ogs. They managed to grab the lead, hold firm for most of the final quarter. The Ogs cut the game back to a single kick, and then the last 5 minutes were pretty much played entirely within the Ogs forward 50 at the Fearon, and they just held on to CY. So a great win for them. Nick Dixon, the coach of Old Geelong, he's noticed that his team has been able to respond every week after a poor performance. They thought they were able to control the game early, couldn't make it work on the scoreboard, had some chances, but thought Williamstown were the better team on the day.
Old Trinity, Old Carey. Which did we learn more about? Was Old Trinity in the end 13-15-93, defeating Old Carey 14-8-92 by 1 point.
So this is Old Trinity's second 1 point game in the season already. We've only played the 5 of them. So they were on the other side of it against the Wellers, as we mentioned with Jimmy back in round 1. This time against Old Carey, they hold on. They were able to hold a 2 to 3 goal buffer for most of the afternoon, and then Old Carey came storming back into this contest with the last few goals of the game. Old Trinity were able to hold on. Interesting, Luke Giles mentioned to me that he probably thought if that game went on for 2 minutes longer, the Panthers would have won it. So he was really confident in the way they were able to come
what
back.
did Donald think?
Donald, again, similar. He was...
Blow the siren!
he thought they were the better team on the day.
Jeez, I feel for Donald. I don't know why he's decided he wants to go back to coaching.
So the thing with poor old Donald is that he's had the 1 point game and then he's taken a plane down to Hobart and watched North Melbourne play out a draw against Brisbane. So I worry for our man's heart after that weekend. Spoke to him while he was waiting for his plane to take off from Hobart Airport, and he still sounded like his heart was beating out of his chest. But he was really impressed with old Carey, and it must be mentioned that the Panthers were without the likes of Luke Kelvey, Will Green, Riley Thompson, who've been really impressive and important for them for the start of the year. So the Panthers keep on impressing pundits around the competition, but it's the Tees who secure the all-important win. They're now second on the ladder.
And Caulfield Grammarians versus Old Melburnians in another one of these critical, as we say, 8-point game doesn't exist, but it's the closest thing to it because Caulfield got the points in a thriller. They now kick clear of the drop zone, whereas Old Melburnians are now 1-4 alongside Fitzroy at 1-4 and Hampton yet to win a game.
You talk about poor old Donald McDonald, poor old Nathan Brown, because he's 1-4, but of his side's 4 losses, 3 have come by a margin of 5 points or fewer.
Ouch.
So that's brutal. They've actually got the 4th best percentage in the competition in Premier B, the OMs, but they've won 1 game, which is just, it's so tricky. The Fields, that learning to win element comes into this as well. It's just their 9th win in the last 49 games of VAFA footy across the top 2 Premier divisions. So it's all about winning behaviours for Paul Satterley, who was, of course, coaching against his old team, the Old Melburnians, where he spent 5 years, described it quite evocatively to me as dancing with your sister. So didn't quite enjoy that element, but did enjoy the fact that he knew a fair bit about his opposition and were able to win it by 4 points. Again, defending grimly with the last moments of the game playing out in the OM's forward half.
So let's check the ladder now after that incredible weekend of footy. It's Old Camberwell on top on 16 points, 147.8. Old Trinity alongside them on 16 and Old Ivanhoe on 16 as well. So 3 teams at 4 and 1. We've then got 3 teams at 3 and 2. Old Carey, Willie CYMS and Old Geelong. So Old Geelong sit 3 and 2 and they're in 6th position. That's how tight this competition is. 1 game back now to Caulfield at 2 and 3. Old Melburnians and Fitzroy at 1 and 4 and Hampton yet to win a game. So as we've said from the very outset, Premier B to me looks like the tightest division of the entire VAFA. You got 6 really good quality teams, and unfortunately, 2 of them are going to miss out.
To be honest, you look at the ladder and you think it bats 7 deep. I reckon it almost bats at the moment 8 or 9 deep.
Oh, you're not doing this tier thing again, are you?
I've been told vehemently by the pair of you.
You're going to tell us there's 10 teams in the comp that could win it.
Not quite. But even Travis Ronaldson at Fitzroy is mentioning that he's starting to get some players back and some continuity going on. And the Old Melburnians, as I mentioned,
they're 2 games out.
So this comp is really tight. Like it's just a thrill every weekend because you log on across what we're calling the SEN game out at the grounds for Top Flight Footy, and you just watch all these goal for goal games play out at Play HQ. So it's great to watch. I recommend people head over to VAFA TV and watch some of the finishes to these games.
Well, just before we do take a break, you mentioned the top 6 sides. I've just brought up the final couple of weeks of the season, and those teams around the mark. In round 17, Old Trinity will be taking on Old Ivanhoe.
Well, let's go back a round. Let's go to round 16 because that's going to be our showcase round for Premier B. We are going to live stream every single game that weekend in Premier B footy.
Okay, so it's Old Camberwell and Caulfield, Old Ivanhoe and Old Geelong, which is a belter of a game, Old Trinity and Fitzroy, Old Carey and Con versus Williamstown, Old Melburnians and the Hampton Rovers. So
they're 5 very interesting games.
Very much so. All of them Saturday, August 16 at 2 o'clock. So
put that in the diary.
Absolutely.
Showcase round, Premier B.
How are you going to call all 5?
I think it's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to try and line them all up on tape and just rip them off the top. But I'll do it. It'll be fun.
Okay. Well, we look forward to that in a few months' time, 10 weeks away from now. We'll take a break. Premier C next, and somehow, I don't know how, but somehow the coach of AJAX has
undefeated coach of AJAX
to come
he wanted
on
me to
the podcast. We're going to speak to LACHIE BUSZARD next. Footy's at the heart of Victoria, but gambling harm is creeping onto our fields. That's where the Real Stakes steps in. Backed by the Victorian Amateur Football Association, the Real Stakes helps local clubs tackle the risk of online sports betting head on. Get the tools, spark the conversation, and protect what really matters, your mates. Visit realstakes.com.au to find out more. Let's turn our attention to Premier C now, lads, and I've been telling you for 5 weeks about AJAX and the football club. And I keep getting told that they're no good, and I agree that they are no good only in the coaching department. The team itself keeps shooting the lights out, so I refuse to believe anything the coach says. And somehow, you told me when I came in today, we're speaking to the coach of AJAX.
The undefeated coach of AJAX, he wanted me to mention.
He's the coach of AJAX, LACHIE BUZZARD. Hello, Lock.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
The full transparency, Lock, I didn't want you on. I thought it was unnecessary to speak to you because I don't want your team to get ahead of themselves.
No, expect anything less from you, mates. It's I've been really informed over the last 5 weeks that by members of our footy club that you've been having a nice little dig at myself. It's I'll say it's appreciated because boys have turned that into something else at the footy club, and it's quite funny when they listen to it, and I get the lowdown of what you said every week from the boys. So.
At least someone's listening. We appreciate it.
We're up to 4 now.
Well, that's what. Yeah, you've got a few listeners, so glad to be on, gents.
Lockie, I remember talking to you when you first took the job over the summer and saying to you, hey, what do you think you've got at AJAX? And you said to me quite openly and honestly, mate, I have no idea. Until we sort of get up and going, I don't really know what I've got. What have you got, mate? You're 5 weeks in, you're 5 and zip with a percentage of 191.5.
Yeah, well, it was challenging times. I sort of came to the footy club and obviously had gone down, been a state rep last year and leading goal kicker, and we lost Charlie Hamilton, Webby, sort of two of our top best and fairest top 5. And I knew we were young and knew we had some talent, but had no idea what they were going to be. And look, this year it's been a really interesting kind of we're developing as a group, but it's been an interesting year getting back into VAFA. 35 players in 5 rounds, which is astronomical. 5 of our leadership group are out injured, so our co-captains have both been out the last weeks and just had horrific injuries all summer, and it's gone into the season. It's been amazing that we've been able to sort of keep competing, and our mentality down the lines of the Collingwood of next man up. But playing so many young kids, you just don't bring. And we've even had a chance where we've played a couple of boys who I've only seen once or twice, and we've thrown them in. They've competed really well. So we still don't really know what we've had or what we've got. That's your question. We know we've got some talent. We know we've got leg speed. We're not a very big. We know we've got a really competitive bunch, and obviously competition drives output, and that's been over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Talking about youngsters and getting a look at them for the first time, etc. Rising Star, Anytime Fitness Rising Star this week.
Yes.
Young Phoenix Janova, who has come in and made a huge impact. 3 goals from a wing in his first game. Tell us a little bit about Phoenix, because that's eye-catching performance, Lockie.
Lucky with some of our young fellas who have come in, and Phoenix been another one. First game on the weekend of the AJAX Junior Footy Club. He's at the Sandringham Dragons. He's in their leadership group there. He's a lightning quick, extremely agile player. So Joe would say a bit like him. Got him covered. Don't worry about that. But he's not a tall. He's super fast. He's super clean, and he's lightly built. But gee, to come goals from a wing in your first game of senior footy, and especially against a very big physical side like Pegs, was an outstanding. Look, he's got a big second half of the year. He'll play some more games with us. Obviously, he's got Sandringham Dragons, but himself and Jethro Gunn, who's another one with a great name, who came into our side earlier in the year, also a sort of Dragons and APS boy, both playing school footy. He came in and kicked 5 goals in 2. Look, we've found some really competitive young kids, and we have got some really good young talent, and that's obviously at the moment. We've also got another probably 4 or 5 boys who have debuted this season out of the under-18s last year. A very young group, but it's been really exciting to watch them come in and grab their opportunity and add to our group.
And Joey, just on the Anytime Fitness Rising Star nominees this week for the women, it is Sienna Bernardo from Oakley, who has been in the best players in all 5 of the games she's played this year. So she is our Anytime Fitness Rising Star nominee. And Phoenix Janova from AJAX, our men's.
That's a great start to both of their seasons. Lock, on a serious note, your football club, and I've mentioned this more than once over a number of years now, you don't get to start the season with any games or training at your home ground because of the Grand Prix. So not only to start the way you have, but to have to do it at makeshift venues, wherever you can find a park some nights to train. Have you been surprised in any way, shape or form the way your team has bought into this season?
I wouldn't say surprised, because it's sort of the way we go about it. It's always been about trying to learn and develop the group. The challenge just haven't had time on the field. We lost the ground from the 1st of March and got it back 1st of May. So we until daylight, it was okay. We could train out at Mount Scopus, which was a fabulous opportunity for us. A small ground, but a great deck. And then once daylight sort of clicked over, we had no access to light. So, yeah, I think we got at one stage we had an hour on a Tuesday for 5 teams, an hour on a Thursday with half an hour sharing half the ground with the soccer club in the Albert Park precinct. So, I mean, Parks Victoria do to try to help us find facility, but we've got 5 teams and it's just made it very difficult to get players through. So, yeah, we've done a lot of conditioning in that time. We haven't had a lot of time with the footies, but we've made sure that the time we have, we've really utilised that to be doing stuff that was going to help us. It's challenging when you're changing venues and at different venues every week because obviously the buy-in from the group wavers a little bit. Some people can make it, some can't. So the way we have has been really encouraging, and we're only going to get better as the season goes on. And that's probably the beauty for me is that we've started really well. We've probably got 10 of our best 25 per se that are out injured that will come back in for the back half of the season. And I guess one thing that's really exciting is Richie Simon's been progressing and doing a lot of running. So the door's certainly open for him for a return late in the year. And also one you won't know about is Jake Lou's been back training with us. And Jake Lou, of course, 500-goal VAFA goal kicker over his journey at the club, retired a couple of years ago and has got itchy feet again. So he's been out on the track the last couple of weeks, which is sort of really exciting, the group that Jake might make a return back after the season.
As we always say, no such thing as a retirement in the VAFA, Paddy.
You mentioned, Lockie, that you've used the 35 players. I've just seen in Harrison McElwain's fantastic Premier C article that you've also been able to blood 7 debutants. Where are you finding these kids from and how impressed have you been in their performance in senior footy?
Yeah, I mean, they're all out of the AJAX Junior Footy Club. The one thing about our club is, we don't recruit widely. Everyone comes through the community and through the Junior Footy Club. So I think every week you'll see points. So it's been fantastic. So yeah, look, we've had 6 of the boys come through last year's under 17.5 team in the Junior Footy. They've all come in. They've all competed. I think the big difference now is that we're in a position where we can play these kids and. Had we not had so many injuries, they may not have got opportunity. But, with that becomes, as I said, with injury becomes opportunity. And these guys have grabbed it and all played 2 or 3 games now and contributed. So, yeah, it's interesting. The VAFA at the moment is you sort of come up against other sides and you look at their lists and there's either really top-heavy lists or there's lists that have really young, really old and not a lot in the middle. We're sort of a pro that's really young and a little bit in the middle. So we're probably differently profiled to a lot of the other sides, which is really exciting. But, again, it's going to be an interesting time once – the problem with playing a lot of young kids who are university students is they all get itchy feet for the telemarine flu, as you call it, Joey. And, we'll lose a number of players over to Europe in July in that break. And there's probably 8 or 9 of those boys going away. So hopefully we get some of our more senior players back to fill the gaps in that period of time. But it's certainly an interesting management of trying to get the right mix in your side, trying to develop the boys to get opportunity. But, yeah, the pathway between the junior footy club is a really strong one.
Just reinforcing that depth, Joey. Look at their reserves team, sits 3rd on the ladder as well at the moment, despite all the injuries they've had at the top level, which means the next batch of kids go up, but the reserves are still hanging in there.
Well, I'm just hearing him say that people are going overseas. I'm concerned about a mid-season slump, a mid-season losing streak, and the board might get a bit restless if they start to drop some games. So maybe, just get yourself right for the mid-season. I want to ask you a serious question. Are you enjoying being back in the coaching hot seat?
Yeah, I'm loving it, to be honest. I've been out of footy for a couple of years, as you guys well know, and getting back into it, I think my wife will say that I probably work on AJAX far too much in terms of what we're doing. You do get the itchy feet, and I'm a competitive beast, so it's all about trying to help the group get better and how we do that. And it's challenging to come in and first understand again, like I said earlier, where their ceiling is and what we can do to get better, and then actually putting that into practice and got our ground back and we've got access to 2 nights a week training. We can do a lot of the things we wanted to do in the pre-season, but I've just been really, really pleased with how the group's competed and actually accepted me and accepted what we're trying to achieve. And yeah, obviously our results have been really strong on the weekend, which has been great.
Last one before we let you go. In a couple of weeks, you're playing the side that's sitting second. Jace brings them up every week, Parkdale, because Mitch Brown's apparently going to kick 100 goals.
He was back on the weekend.
Did you kick anyone near 100?
Kicked 3, I think.
Like 3, yeah. Did 97 to go.
It's good effort. He only played the last 2 minutes of the game.
I feel like at this stage, Lockett's out of yourselves and Parkdale when we're talking top 2. Yeah, obviously have an eye on the rest of the competition. Are they, in your eyes, from what you've seen so far, the biggest threat to what you hope to achieve this year?
Well, I mean, I think amateur footy is challenging, right? Every week, you never know what's. We've had 4 changes, 7 changes, and 4 changes our last 3 weeks. So, you never really know what's coming at you and who's coming in and out with amateur footy. And every game is a big game because the bottom end need to win to stay up and the top end need to win to keep going. I think, obviously, on exposed form, Parkdale are a very good footy side, and they've got a few number of VFL listed players and AFL, ex-AFL talent. Beaumaris have a number of VFL listed players. I think they've got 3 or 4 who will come back into their side or who are in their side. We don't have any. So we've just got homegrown AJAX boys who have come through the junior footy club. So if you're looking at sort of that top tier talent, if those sides get their 2 or 3 listed VFL, it changes the game in terms of how you perform and how you play, as you know. So it's really hard to say what does the competition look like at round 18 because it depends so much so. And you see it at A grade and B grade, you can have sides having 6 and 7 players come back and go in. So every week it's actually really different and difficult to say on exposed form they're going to be the number one. I mean, I think Bowie are going to get better and better as they go. St Bede's have a number of listed players and on their day they can beat anyone as well. And obviously they've got the competition, probably one of the competition's best players in Jack Bennett, who's just a star of an athlete, kicks goals, does it on his ear. So it's a really hard question to answer, but certainly round 8 versus Parkdale is going to give us a really good indication of where we're at. They are, they've got key forwards, they kick goals, they've got a really good midfield, they bat fairly deep in their midfield. So looking forward to playing them and Beaumaris. We haven't played either of those guys yet.
It's one of the most verbose and eloquent answers or ways of saying we'll take it 1 week at a time.
That's because he's got coach speak down pat.
Beautiful.
That's how he got the job. When he went for the interview.
He just lulled you into a sense of, I'm not getting anything out of him here. He's got me playing on a break.
Well, he's not trying to get me anything. Premier C coaches put this podcast on and they want to hear from the team that's leading at the moment. They're trying to knock off the Jackas, who are being led really well by LACHIE BUSZARD as their coach.
He saw you coming from a mile away and just danced around. No problems at all.
Do you want me to throw up any questions for you, Locke, that you can knock down like that?
No, well, I will say that I just focus on us. To be honest.
There you go.
I think you can.
I heard somewhere that if you focus on the process, the outcome will take care of itself. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but...
Well, they tell me that's right at work as well. So, it's. I think that's all you can do. You can't look too far ahead in this game. As I said, Europe's coming up, and we lose a whole lot of players. We'll be a different side then. Joey, if you want to register, you might get a game. I did ask our vice president last week to get his boots in the back of the car. He might come in the front in the forward pocket.
Is there a height requirement for this ride?
There it is.
Well, I tell you what, Rob Kerr, and the beauty about the amateurs is you come up against people you've worked with, and I've worked with Mark Williams, who's an assistant coach at Pegs for many years when he was 3-time premiership Sandringham coach, and the week before at Mazenod with Peter Banfield when I was at Casey with him. But Rob did say before the game last week, he said, "Gee, you guys are small," and one of the things about the AJAX Footy Club is that we don't have a huge amount of talls in our side. So Joey, you fit right in.
Like just an half forward, Joey.
Hey, I've got a very good record at Gary Smorgon Oval, so don't tempt me, Locke, because I might just make myself available for you if you need one. Mate,
I really, really enjoy it, fellas, and it's a fabulous competition, as you know.
It certainly is. Thanks for jumping on and spending some time with us. Parkside is your game this weekend. We'll obviously keep across what you are doing because you get talked about every single week on the podcast. If you don't listen, someone at the Jackas will, and they'll report back.
Love your work, gents. Appreciate what you do for the comp.
5-0 to start the season, the Jackas, and they could well go to 6-0 this week. A couple of the other results in Premier C. Mazenod 41-point winners over Parkside. The Vultures keep on keeping on. We mentioned Mitch Brown, 28-point winners over Glen Ira. St Bede's 10-point winners over Marsland. And Beaumaris, 48-point winners over Paran. Surely someone can take down the Jackas, Jay. Surely there's a team out there.
Well, you must be, I think, the first media personality in the history of football to be trying to get a 5-0 coach sacked. I've
it's a
never
big
seen
ask. It before.
It's a big ask.
I mean, you
wait for the domino to fall.
You are a precedent-setting journalist in your history across the MOs, Joey Pignataro. So I quite like that you've taken on the challenge. Jace, let's go through the ladder. So it's AJAX surprising no one atop the table with a percentage of 191.6.
Well, they surprised me.
Parkdale Vultures in second. Also 5 and Zip with 174.4, their percentage. Then you've got St Bede's in third, Beaumaris and Pegs both on 3 and 2. Beaumaris in fourth with the superior percentage. Then Mazenod and Parkside 2 and 3. Marsland 8th one for Glen Ira and Paran in 9th and 10th, still waiting for their first win of 2025.
I'll have to find out for you. I feel like there has been a coach or two that has been given the bird after starting a season really well. I'll come back to you on that next week. I reckon there's a couple.
Do your homework.
And I have a feeling I know the club already, but I just want to be sure on the win-loss column before I run with it. But I definitely know the club. We're going to take a break. Brayden May is going to join us after this from the Herald Sun Community TV. And what else we got? The world-famous tips. Did I get 5 last week?
Maybe in total.
We'll talk about that after this. Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food, because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
This is For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the Ammos. We're here all thanks to MECWACARE, and as we do every week at this particular time, we speak to Brayden May, the newshound from Community TV and the Herald Sun. Hello, Brayden.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Going well, going well. On Saturday, I was watching the VFL version of the Bull Ants, who are having a tough time at the moment, but I'm pleased to report in the Ammos version of the Preston Bull Ants, they're going very well. What can you tell us?
Yeah, they're absolutely flying. I've got them as probably the biggest surprise packet of the season so far, especially in the divisions. 4-1 and then beat Q, a game that was a real test of how far they've come, and they come away with an 18-point win. They won 7 games last year. They now sit third, 4-1. They're in that bunch with the Bears, Old Peninsula and Oakley for that race for the top 4. So I think this could be a really disappointed team that does eventually finish 5th. But they're absolutely flying. They're just such a young group, and this is a club that's not just about what they're doing on field, but they've just asked everyone, from the people that run the canteen to the coaches, the officials, just to improve where they can by 10-15%. The Bull Ants are determined to really make their mark in that northern corridor where they've got so many competing teams with obviously a neighbouring competition, but they're flying at the moment, and it's a really good story to watch unfold.
Brayden, you mentioned they've got a young team. Have they had an influx of new faces this year, or is it a case of players that have been around the club for a year or two sort of getting 20, 30 games under their belt and sort of finding their feet?
It's a bit of both. So they've got those games into the young fellas. I think a lot of coaches will tell you, especially even at this level, once you get to 30, 40 games of senior experience with some of these young guys, they really expect them to take the next step in their development. But a new face that they brought in, Benedict Douglas, obviously a really good footballer at Parkside. He's come across and he's making a major difference up forward. He's one of their leading goal kickers alongside Coach Tom Hill. So there's just a lot more to it. Their scoring power is really impressive, but I just think it's one of those things where they're going to probably have their ebbs and flows. They'll have moments where they'll probably get beaten by someone that we probably expect they won't, but that's what you're going to get a young side. Like talking to Pat Ryan, who oversees the strategy and football operations, he likes the sense of calmness that is among the group at the moment. For example, they'll be under pressure in games, and in previous years they might have panicked a little bit, as young sides do, but at the moment they just understand that momentum isn't going to be their way for 4 quarters.
What about their next fortnight?
Amazing.
It's going to set up their season, isn't it?
Well, given they've just beaten the top team Q, right?
Correct.
And now they come up against Ormond, who are now the new top team.
And then in a week's time after Ormond, Peninsula, who are 4th.
Yeah, so they're basically playing a little mini final series, or early in the season, Brayden, to sort of give them a handle on where they're at.
Yeah, most definitely. And one thing that Pat was telling me, they kind of break their season down in like 4 blocks. So last week they considered it Block 2, Session 1. Obviously, the 5th game.
This sounds like a grind, the grind model.
I thought that was in the can, Jace.
But I think it's the perfect way to go about it. Like, as you said, we just don't know. We're only 3 weeks away from the old European summer, so it'll be very interesting. You're winning games now early. Like, speaking to a lot of coaches across all the divisions the last couple of weeks, they reckon these wins right now are worth their weight in gold, especially if you can get ahead in the pack.
We're not going to be talking to you from Lake Como in a few weeks' time, are we, Brayden? You're not no Tullamarine flu for you in 25?
Unfortunately not. I wish, but I'll be here for the winter months. Although we haven't seen any wintry conditions. I think we might get some on Saturday. So bring your bathers if you are playing this weekend. I think we're meant to get a bit of rain for the first time.
That'll be exciting news. I don't want to quite walk over our ton watch segment that we've got later on because I'm sure that all our listeners are hanging out for that one. But there is a really good battle going on for the leading goal kicker award in Division 1, Brayden.
Yeah, certainly. Bailey Pays, this guy is an unbelievable footballer. Obviously, we all know the family story. He's got 29 goals in 5 games, and that's despite being held goalless in round 3. He's actually got 17 in the last fortnight, including 8 against Ormond when they lost. So it just shows the sort of form he's in. And then Luke Ashen, obviously we spoke about Aaron Cloak, I think, in pre-season, his departure from the club, but he's got 26 goals in 4 games. So I reckon we've got it. As you said, we will touch on it a bit later, but Ton Watch is well and truly alive in Division 1, much to probably Joey's upset.
Yeah, baby. Let's talk Division 2. Ben Wilson, 100th game for the club for Brunswick. Massive 103-point thumping in the Division 2 grand final replay.
Yeah, Brunswick are fine. It just shows, I guess, the probably difference that these two clubs have gone since being promoted. Elstonwick have had a bit of player turnover. They're yet to taste success, but they're a proud club. They'll eventually turn around, I reckon. But Brunswick are moving 4-1, and they're really shaping as a finals contender. I think it's this as this division starts to open up more, especially with that gap probably between the top 5 and maybe the bottom 5. If you are not on your day, you are going to get beaten, and you can get beaten badly, which is not a great thing, but it's also really exciting for this competition. Oscar Watt kicked 6, Joe Gale kicked 5, Mitch Hicks hit 4 for Brunswick. Their forward line is very, very impressive.
Yeah, it could make it 6 really good teams in Division 1 if Brunswick can get up and rolling and close that gap. They still sit 2 games behind the top 5 in Div 1, but as Brayden says, if they can maintain that sort of form, they could close that gap and suddenly make it a race in 6.
Where do you want to go in Div 2, Brayden?
Well, I reckon let's talk good old-fashioned, 1990s footy, even early 2000s. The Jocks, they got on the board with a massive 14-point win over Melbourne High School Old Boys, 21-8 to 19-6.
That's what we like.
That's a dream.
That game would have gone to about 6:30 in the evening, I reckon.
Magnificent.
It would have been playing in the dark.
I reckon they've just finished, to be honest. Yes. It's outstanding. Mitch Barry produced his best performance of the season. He kicked 6. Harvey Emery, he's a young guy that the Jocks are really excited about. He booted 4. A nice season. And the club described as a club legend, Daniel Codolico, played his 150. There was a few milestones on the weekend, so congratulations to him. But, yeah, the Jocks have been playing some good footy, and they haven't been afraid to put some big scores on the board, even in some of their losses.
South Melbourne Districts, we bemoaned last week about what a tough start they had to the year, but it looks like they've kick-started their campaign.
Yeah, an 82-point win over Hawthorn. So this was the battle of two sides that we probably thought were going to be in that top 4 mix, but they're both now 1-4. It's just a fascinating season. This has probably played out a little bit differently to what we expected this competition. But again, the old Tullamarine flu, as you alluded to, Jace, that could shape the finals race because 82 points is an absolute thumping, especially when you haven't won a game. But Austin Murphy's a name to keep an eye on for the Swans. He booted 5 on the weekend after 3 on debut against Whitefriars a week earlier. Connor Jacoby was best of field. So if Districts get rolling, they may beat some of the teams that are above them.
I'm looking at Division 3, Brayden, and I'm seeing that our man Jack Taylor-Evans didn't play on the weekend, but it's not affected how Powerhouse are going. They've beaten Richmond Central by 47 points.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I wanted to see. This was a game that I was really intrigued by. Powerhouse, they've had some big wins. We spoke about, as you said, Jack Taylor-Evans leading the goal kicking, but Michael Timmins, the skipper, he finished with 5 and 47 points, 8-goal win. That's a very impressive against another side that we thought is probably going to be right in the mix at the pointy end of the season. It's a really good result. And another one that I took close notice of was Albert Park. They're really impressive. 2 wins on the trot, a bit slow out of the blocks, but they next face Powerhouse. So a win for either side might be a bit of a thing to keep an eye on. If Albert Park win that game, they get momentum. They even the ledger, and do they suddenly become a finals contender? And where do we sit on Powerhouse then?
Yeah, and also, I just noticed this, Brayden, as well. Wattle Park with a big win over Chadstone. They've got the 5 wins as well as Powerhouse. 14 individual goal kickers for them in the 133-point victory over Chadstone, Joey and Jace.
What do you think of Brayden's question there? Is it Powerhouse and done, or given what you've just said about Wattle Park, are you putting them there? What are you thinking about Albert Park?
It's a long year. It's a very long year.
It's a funny old game, football,
It is a funny
Joseph.
game. Football, it's, week
I
after
didn't
week, that
realise
kind
you
of
were
business.
prone to putting splinters in your own backside when it comes to Division 3.
I've learned from one of the best.
Like
As long
our
as,
man
as, long
over
as
here.
football's the winner, we're all happy.
I like the fact that we had one close game, at least in this section, over the weekend, because some of the other results were quite big. I see North Brunswick, after a slowish start, Brayden, have put it together with back-to-back 100-point wins. Obviously, it's going to help their percentage. It's going to help their confidence. I'm a bit concerned that they're coming up against Ely Park Sharks this week, so it might be their third 100-plus point victory in a row. Good for North Brunswick, obviously not ideal for Ely Park. Is there any silver linings at the bottom of the table in Division 3 before we let you go?
I think one of the key things, like your likes of Ely Park and Chadstone, is that like Chadstone, for example, they came back from third footy only last year. These clubs, the main thing is for these guys to front up every week takes a lot of courage, and it just speaks to the culture that these footy clubs have got. Like, there's times where, even probably in the higher divisions, if things get tough, people might just throw in the towel, but these guys keep fronting up for the reserves, for the seniors, and when they snag a win, it's going to mean the absolute world to them, and I look forward to seeing how those seasons play out. And as the coach has said, if these guys can keep improving, it's only going to help them, not just now, but in 18 months' time when we look ahead to next year.
Community TV game this week is Premier Women's action from Brunswick Street Oval. It's Fitzroy taking on Old Scotch. Great opportunity this, Brayden, for Fitzroy. They had a great win over Williamstown CYMS by 2 points on the weekend, and then the previous week they beat Old Yarra by 39 points. So they're coming in off a couple of wins to build some confidence. And round 3 against the other benchmark team, St Kevin's, they got within 16 points. So this is an opportunity, I think, for Fitzroy to maybe step up and test themselves against the best teams in the competition.
Well, exactly right. And at the moment, they're only percentage outside the top 4. And if they can come away, even if they were to be beaten, but not have a heavy loss, that percentage could play a key role later in the year, especially if they are to beat some of those other sides like your Bow Morris, who sit 4th, and Old Geelong that are around them at the moment.
Caulfield Grammarians at the moment and St Kevin's both 5 and zip in Premier Women's. Old Scotch a game further back because they lost to St Kevin's in that match earlier in the season. Then it's Bow Morris sitting in 4th, Fitzroy sitting in 5th. At 3 and 2. So, yeah, great opportunity. So that game's coming up, our double header on Saturday on KTV, which will kick off at about 11:55, leading into the senior game straight after it at Brunswick Street Oval. What else are you looking at this week, Brayden?
Yeah, well, just trying to keep up with everything. We're getting to that point of the season where there's so much happening. There's injury news. There's a lot of different things. I wouldn't mind tracking down D. Larcell. I read your piece, Jace. One of the young fellas just had the ball on a string. I don't reckon I've had that many touches in my career.
Paddy saw him live in action, and Antonio Giampa.
Yeah, he is a special talent. He's one of those guys. I was speaking to Hugo Higginbotham about this, and I know I touched on this a little bit earlier in the show. He doesn't look like 17 at all. He looks 23. He's so professionally prepared. He's a beautiful kick of the footy. That's a dynamic right foot.
Well, you go
we
check
need to
him
watch
out.
this guy. We won't see much of him in the ammos, I'll tell you that
go
much.
check him out this week because they'll just be standing there like cones against St Bernard's at Waverley Oval.
One of our broadcast games this week. There'll be a live stream of that one, De La Salle versus St Bernard's. But you're right, Brayden, at this time of the year, some of the youngsters putting their hands up with Big V selection just around the corner.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and I can't wait for that game. And I think it's a great opportunity for some of these young guys. Like, we've already seen it. If the right person is watching, you put your name up in lights, who knows where you can take yourself in only 6 months' time.
It will be one to watch. There's no question about that. Brayden, thanks for jumping on, spending some time with us, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks very much, guys. Speak then.
Brayden May joining us from the Herald Sun and Community TV.
Ton Watch!
Bloody hell.
The eyes have lit up.
Thanks to SHERRIN. Let's have a look at
I
our
can't
round
believe
5.
it's sponsored.
Our round 5 big bags.
You hear this and you don't think this is award-winning, sponsor-worthy radio? Goodness gracious.
Best big bag segment anywhere in Australia. Matt
not
David
extrapolate
from
that.
North Brunswick Senior Men's, 12 goals for the weekend. He kicked a dozen, so well done to Matt for North Brunswick and their senior team.
88 short.
Bow Morris Senior Men's, Callum Heath kicked 10 in the ones for Bow Morris on the weekend.
Cal Heath.
And Jack Helmet kicked 10 for the Old Carey Thirds. 8 to Bailey Pays for Old Peninsula.
Nice.
8 to Edward Chard for Old Trinity Reserves. 7 each to Luke Ashen for Oakley Seniors. Luke Scuderi for Old Ivanhoe Reserves. 7 for Louis Hodder, who we mentioned in the Fitzroy Senior team. And 7 for Tyler Shaw in the Box Hill North Reserves. Our leading women's goal kicker for the weekend was Ainsley Elliott at Monash Blues in their senior team. She booted 6.
Good on her.
Ton Watch season leaderboard. Rory Calvert from Old Zab's third sits on 32 goals. He's 3 clear of Bailey Pays and Jack Taylor Evans on 29. Jack Taylor Evans, as we mentioned, didn't play on the weekend, so that was a bit of a setback for Tunwatch. Cal Randall on 28 after he kicked 19 last week. None this week. Not sure if he played or not.
That's a setback. I thought he was on track to kick them all this week.
Oh, well, if he keeps kicking 18 a week, he's only going to play another 5 or 6 games, and he's there. Luke Ashen kicked 7, as we mentioned. He's on 26. 23 for Jack Bank. 23 for Simon Heather. 21 for Herbert Fithall and Harry Lawkins in the Old Camberwell senior men's team. Thanks to SHERRIN.
Our man leading again, just his name and
Rory Calvert in the Old Zabs thirds. He's got 32 for the season.
Well, he's going to fall short because their season finishes a few weeks earlier than the rest. They only have 16 rounds.
He'll be right.
He'll get there. He'll be fine. Shout out to Callum Heath just quietly because he's a ruckman usually, which is why my eyes lit up. He's the brother of Max Heath, who's of course at St Kilda. Had 3 goals on the season prior to the weekend and then has put 10 on. So he's up to 13. So well done to Big Cal.
I love that we're doing this and Sharon's all over it. I'm getting concerned though that I think we've done it 3 or 4 weeks in a row now. No one in William Buck Premier Men's gets past 5-6 goals. Any danger, any of our 10 clubs at the top just puts it forward in the goal square, 1 out so we can get a bag of 10.
Well, we keep talking about the importance of multiple avenues to goal, Joseph.
So the whole point of Tunwatch is to kick 100.
I know, but we've got
You've been against Tunwatch.
I just
now he wants fair in the square.
It's too late to jump on the bus.
You don't know what you want, Charlie.
Too late.
You need to go home and have a good hard look. I'm glad you've come aboard, though. Welcome. There's plenty of room on the bandwagon.
No, I'm not convinced someone will kick 100.
Glad you've seen the light. Here we go.
I just want someone in William. I want to be able to say to them, someone in Premier A has kicked a bag of 10. And for some reason, no one can.
Because it's difficult.
Oh, there it is.
That'd be the
Finally,
reason.
that's what I've been trying to get to.
Can I explain that to you?
I've been trying to explain this for years.
There's a few things that need to be explained to you according to our tips this week.
Why? What? I got 5, didn't I?
Well, you actually got 4. 4 out of 10 for the week.
4 out of 10?
Yes, you in Premier B, out of the 5 games you tipped, let me see.
Don't tell me I got 0.
0.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 0. You got
did I
all
get
5
0?
wrong. And they were all such close games. They were all within a kick and you got every single one of them
wrong. So
wrong.
does that mean he got 5?
So Paddy got 3. Paddy got 3 out of 5. He got Fitzroy, Willie and the Tees. And then in William Buck Premier Men's, you both tipped 4 each. So
5.
For the round, Joey got 4. And Paddy got 7, which means Paddy's now kicked 4 tips clear. He's on 33. You're on 29 for the season.
That's good number, 29.
The Grind is out and up by 4.
Yeah, I thought we'd been that, but now we've got to ride at home for the whole season, so looking forward to it.
Round 6 tips. Let's start with Premier B. Caulfield Grammar versus Willie CYMS. Interesting game.
These are 2 of my absolute favourites, Sats and Con. I think Caulfield's an up and down team for me at the moment. I think they've got a little bit of a mojo going. I reckon this one will be close as well, but I'm going to take them at home. So Caulfield for me.
Joseph?
Caulfield for me. Little birdie tells me there's a couple of handy recruits coming to the fields.
Okay. This weekend? Or?
Potentially.
Yes.
Potentially. So Caulfield at home.
OMs versus Old Camberwell at Elstonwick Park.
The OMs play the ground really well here at Elstonwick. They've, as I've mentioned,
their home ground.
Yeah, but they've played. The understanding is that the wind blows to the Glen Huntley end. They handle it best, and they're able to go into the breeze pretty well. So I think it's a tough trip to make, and I think it's been indicated by the results. Even though they've only won the 1 game, the OMs, but they've been in every contest. Old Camberwell though will retain, I think, their spot atop the ladder. I have them winning.
Yeah, Wellers for me too.
Camberwell all around. Old Ivanhoe versus Fitzroy.
Oh, they've got to bounce
220
back.
at Shellsworth Park.
They've got to bounce back. Geesh
will bounce back.
So Old Ivanhoe for both.
Yep.
Old Carey versus Hampton Rovers.
What's going on
2:30
here?
at Carey Sports.
Staggering the starts.
Carey Sports Complex. 2:30. Old Carey, Hampton Rovers.
Carey at home.
Panthers.
And the final game of Premier B for the weekend is Old Geelong versus Old Trinity at 2:50 at Como Park.
Staggering the start still. What's going on there?
Geelong and Trinity, good game.
This is a bit of a rivalry, actually. They love playing up against each other. It was a semi-final where the Ogs were within a kick. I think it was a shot after the siren from 50 that didn't make the distance on a wet day. So they're very close to each other. I find it really hard to tip against the Ogs at Como Park. They play that large ground so well.
Are you tipping the Ogs?
I'm tipping the Ogs.
Oh, I'm going to tip Donald. Trinity. I just think I feel for him. Coaching is a tough gig. And I think they're going to walk away with a win here.
William Buck Premier Men's round 6.
Wow, now.
Our SEN match of the day from 1:45 on the VAFA.com and SEN app is Collegians and St Kevin's. Always a big rivalry blockbuster.
It is. It is. It's the modern
at Harry
day
Trott.
Geelong Hawthorn, these two. That's what this is. St Kevin's at the Harry Trott for mine.
Yep, likewise.
St Kevin's and St Kevin's. Our VAFA, one of our VAFA live streams, of which we have 3 this weekend, which is exciting. 1:55, Old Scotch versus University Blacks at Camberwell.
They need this one for Scotchies.
They both
don't they?
need this one.
Absolutely, they both. Can it finish in a draw? I'm not sure.
You going to tip the draw?
Nope.
Well, yes, it can, theoretically. If they both end up on the same score, that's how a draw works.
Well, as
Jace.
I discovered over the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm going for Scotch. They have to respond. Come on, Natty.
Yep, Scotch for me.
Another VAFA live stream from 1:55 on Saturday, live on the website, live and free. De La Salle versus St Bernard's at Waverley.
We're streaming this game, are we?
We are streaming this game.
That's nice to put a St Bernard's training session on for the fans who can't get there.
Nick Highland for me to break the duck.
Wow, okay. De La.
It is at the Dairy Bell.
Yep.
It'll be bloody tough to beat, but all St Bernard's fans should go out there, and in all seriousness, everyone who goes there should pay the $5 and go into the halftime afternoon tea.
Yes.
It is the best
Yes.
afternoon tea in the competition by a mile. That is my one and only silver lining to going out to the Dairy Bell.
Uni Blues versus Old Haileybury.
Old Haileybury.
Old Haileybury, yep. I'm
And
with
the
you.
final game of the weekend, another VAFA live stream.
Here we go.
Another
2:30.
VAFA live stream, 2:25 broadcast for a 2:30 bounce. Old Zabs and Old Brighton at Toorak Park.
This is a little bit of a finals preview, I think.
This could be one of the games of the year.
It could be. If it's close.
I reckon the
scores are tight.
Oh, thank you, Joseph.
I'm not
Just off the back
explaining scoring to you. Old Brighton for me.
Not if they
on the
kick
road.
8-28 again.
I'm going to, 28-8. Let's go for that.
Old Brighton for you.
Old Brighton for me on the road.
Hey.
Old Brighton on the road.
Yep. The Old Zavorians.
I'm going for the Aura at home.
Oh, that you've said that with a grimace on your face.
I know.
He's sweating, isn't
but
he?
They're at home and they're back to being a pain for everyone.
What a game that promises to be. You'll see it live and free, vafa.com.au from 2:25 on Saturday. Zabs and Brighton.
At the brand new Toorak Park too. Gee
Behind
whiz.
the glass.
That's going to be a killer deal. I think, did I not have these two teams as the grand final?
It's St Kevin's.
No, St Kevin's.
Oh, did
we
I?
both had St Kevin's.
St
Well,
Kevin's, Old
these
Zabs.
two could be an early precursor to the grand final, the way they're tracking at the moment. Now, we're done for another week. Keep up to date on vafa.com.au with all the news and views. And as Jace mentioned, all the live streams, which is magnificent over the weekend. You will not miss a moment. And we'll be back next week to do it all again.